Mr. President, Ethiopia welcomes the presentation of draft resolution L11 and expresses its sincere appreciation to the co-sponsors of Paraguay and Brazil for their leadership and for initiating a text that seeks to reinforce synergies between international human rights mechanisms and national institutional capacities. Mr. President, Ethiopia regards this resolution as timely and relevant. The proper implementation, reporting and follow-up of human rights commitments is a core challenge for many states, including developing countries. As a nation deeply committed to human rights, Ethiopia acknowledges that international cooperation, technical assistance, capacity building and peer learning is essential in helping states strengthen national mechanisms for implementation, reporting and follow-up in a sustainable and context-appropriate manner. In line with the spirit of this resolution, Ethiopia underscores recent efforts to strengthen its national mechanism for reporting and follow-up, including a 2024 workshop co-organized with OHCHR and the Ministry of Justice. This initiative enhanced interministerial coordination and engagement with civil society. The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission continues to play a key role in oversight, supported by capacity-building partnerships and active civil society organizations' participation in monitoring and implementation of UPR recommendations. These steps testify to Ethiopia's commitment to building robust national frameworks for implementation, reporting and follow-up. Mr. President, Ethiopia welcomes the constructive elements of draft resolution L11, particularly its reaffirmation that technical cooperation must be provided with the consent of the state concerned, respecting sovereignty and national ownership. We value the emphasis on inclusive and participatory national mechanisms, the call for strengthened OHCHR support through adequate resourcing and capacity building, and the promotion of peer learning, including South-South and triangular cooperation. Ethiopia also appreciates the recognition of the vital link between human rights implementation and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In conclusion, Mr. President, Ethiopia reaffirms its support for the draft resolution L11 and underscores the importance of constructive and cooperative approaches to advancing human rights. We support its adoption by consensus as a reflection of shared commitment to strengthening national implementation efforts. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Benin.
Thank you, President. Benin places at the heart of its mandate within the Council its concern for constant commitment to international instruments for protecting and promoting human rights, including the special mandate holders. Our performance in terms of regular reporting to the treaty bodies bear witness to this. Benin is one of the rare states that regularly fulfills its obligations here. Our latest review was before the Committee on Enforced Disappearances, and it took place on the 23rd of September last month. The challenge regarding the implementation of recommendations that stem from these reviews remains, though, and the national mechanisms for implementation, reporting and follow-up are essential in this respect. So we would like to thank the High Commissioner for his support, especially in the context of his programme for capacity building for human rights treaties. My country welcomes the ongoing discussions with the Office of the High Commissioner in this context for developing a database for the follow-up to implementation at the national level. In this context, Benin would like to thank Paraguay and Brazil for having presented draft resolution L11, which suggests strengthening or promoting international cooperation to support national mechanisms for implementation, reporting and follow-up. This important question garnered particular attention during the regional workshop for Africa from the special trust funds for LDCs, which took place in Cotonou with your presence, President. And this workshop gave rise to a very interesting and enriching exchange of experience between participants. Such a trend should be built on and consolidated, and that is why Benin is glad to join the list of co-sponsors of L11, and we invite the consensus to adopt it by consensus.
Representative of Chile.
Gracias, señor. Thank you, President. Chile would like to thank Paraguay and Brazil for having introduced draft resolution L11, which emphasises the importance of international cooperation for promoting national mechanisms for implementation, reporting and follow-up. Over the last few months, weeks and days, we have heard a lot about the liquidity crisis of the United Nations and about the difficulties that the international organisations are facing when trying to deliver on their mandates. In this complex context, resolutions such as this one are essential, not for replacing international monitoring, which remains essential, but also in order to enable countries to take proactive measures so as to implement the recommendations they receive and not be limited to waiting for the next report or the next review before reporting. The role played by national mechanisms for implementation, reporting and follow-up is essential for making the promises that are formulated at the international level effective. Moreover, this resolution emphasises the importance of exchanging best practices and the role played by the Office of the High Commissioner, as well as the importance of the participation by civil society and national human rights institutions, all mean that our countries can move forward together on this. That is why Chile traditionally has co-sponsored this resolution. On this occasion, we are also co-sponsoring it in keeping with one of the commitments we made in the context of the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It was an occasion on which Chile committed to establishing such a mechanism. We are in the baby steps of that process, but we still already have a coordinating committee which met at the very highest level a few months ago. And it is in this context that we very much welcome Paraguay and Brazil's leadership in this context, and we encourage other countries to follow the same path in order to make the most of the international fora and transform human rights commitments into a constructive forum for dialogue which is focused on the human rights of all individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give the floor to the distinguished representative of Spain.
Gracias, señor presidente. España.
Thank you, President. Spain would like to thank the promoters for the introduction of L11, and we consider it essential to foster human rights capacity building and technical assistance. We all benefit from it as we seek to achieve our common goal of protecting and promoting human rights in the best possible way. The sponsor group has made substantive updates to the text, highlighting the added value that national implementation mechanisms have, including contributions from civil society, which are absolutely essential. We welcome the triennial rhythm of this resolution, and we welcome the fact that L11 continues to promote the pooling and exchange of experiences and best practices. In a spirit of rationalization, we also welcome the fact that the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has been asked to develop a consolidated report on this. States need to include in their national legislations and public policies obligations and commitments that they have undertaken under international human rights law in order to ensure that any state action is effectively geared towards the protection and promotion of human rights, placing people first and highlighting the importance of prevention and international cooperation. We also welcome the launching of the digital platform to this end. Spain reiterates its commitment to the UPR, the treaty bodies and the special procedures. We are aware that compliance with human rights is a constant and participatory process, a dynamic process for day-to-day implementation across all levels. For all these reasons, Spain reaffirms its support for draft resolution L11, and we encourage states to adopt it by consensus. Thank you.
Thank you. I have been informed by the Secretariat that there are PBIs for this draft proposal. The PBIs amount to a total of $91,600. This amount will need to be added to the budget. I now give the floor to members of the Council who wish to make explanations of votes before the vote on draft proposal L11. I don't see any request for the floor. Is there a request for a vote? I see none. Can I take it that draft proposal L11 may be adopted without a vote? It is so decided. Thank you. The Council will now consider draft proposal L14 entitled Assistance to Somalia in the Field of Human Rights. I invite the distinguished representative of the United Kingdom to introduce the draft proposal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the honour to introduce, on behalf of the UK and Somalia, the draft resolution L14 on assistance to Somalia in the field of human rights. The United Kingdom is proud to continue our close partnership with Somalia in advancing the protection and promotion of human rights. We value our role as a constructive and trusted partner, a critical friend supporting Somalia's progress towards sustainable peace, development and accountability. Since 1993, Somalia has made significant strides in rebuilding from conflict, strengthening governance and advancing stability and reconciliation. We commend the Somali authorities for their continued engagement with this Council and with the wider UN human rights system. We also recognise that Somalia continues to face serious human rights challenges, but we welcome the government's willingness to confront these issues head-on, including through open and constructive dialogue here in Geneva. This resolution marks a historic step forward for Somalia. It transitions from a long-standing independent expert mandate to a new partnership with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. This evolution reflects Somalia's growing institutional capacity, its commitment to reform and the maturity of its cooperation with the international community. We pay tribute to the independent expert who has provided vital support and scrutiny. The new arrangement is focused on supporting Somalia's own national human rights priorities and includes continued monitoring and public reporting. This balance of partnership and oversight remains essential to sustain progress. We particularly welcome Somalia's commitment to establish a fully independent National Human Rights Commission, a vital institution to safeguard rights, promote accountability and give voice to all Somalis. Finally, we believe Item 10 mandates must evolve in line with the needs and aspirations of the countries concerned. We should continue to think creatively about how technical assistance and capacity building can most effectively support national ownership and lasting human rights progress. We look forward to the Council's support for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. I have been informed by the Secretariat that there are 16 additional co-sponsors, and I now give the floor to members of the Council who wish to make general comments. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Morocco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Morocco wishes to express its appreciation to the United Kingdom and Somalia as the pen holders of the resolution for their efforts in drafting the text before us. My delegation wishes to commend the great strides made by Somalia in the field of protecting and promoting human rights, notably the forthcoming establishments of the National Independent Human Rights Commission, as well as the important work of the National Mechanism for Reporting and Follow-up. The draft resolution duly reflects these important developments and requests OHCHR to provide technical assistance and capacity building to Somalia with a view to further improving the human rights situation in Somalia. Therefore, Morocco supports this draft resolution and calls upon all member states to adopt it by consensus. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Qatar.
Sayyid al-Rais.
Thank you, President. Somalia is facing many challenges that are affecting its stability and peace, and also human rights. That's why it is necessary for the international community to show solidarity vis-à-vis Somalia by providing technical assistance and capacity building in keeping with the country's needs. That is why it is necessary to support the efforts being made by the government of Somalia with a view to consolidating human rights and ensuring it can respect its international obligations. This draft resolution reaffirms such an approach because the Somali government will cooperate with various bodies with the support of the international community in order to implement a set of measures for promoting human rights. These include the project for the transition of development 2025-2026, and this should build on what has already been achieved and also the implementation of Council resolutions. The draft resolution also calls on the Office of the High Commissioner to continue to work with the government of Somalia and also other UN entities alongside the National Human Rights Committee in Somalia. The idea is to ensure that this Commission can fulfil its obligations. We hope that this draft resolution will be adopted by consensus, for it is a resolution that is conducive to greater solidarity and better cooperation between Somalia and the human rights mechanisms. Thank you.
Thank you. We shall now hear from the concerned country, and I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Somalia.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, on behalf of the Federal Government of Somalia, I wish to express our deep gratitude to the United Kingdom as a penholder, and to all Member States and the partners for the sense of collaboration that has guided this resolution from informal negotiation to this adoption process. This resolution is more than just a formal process. It is a statement of acknowledgement towards Somalia's journey to resilience, from rebuilding our constitutional order to establishing our National Independent Human Rights Commission, to launching our first nationally led Human Rights Transition Plan 2025-2026. It also confirmed that while the primary responsibility rests with us, international partnership remains vital. For Somalia, this resolution is a bridge from decades of externally derived support to nationally owned institutions, from fragility to sustainability, from monitoring to genuine collaboration. It also reminds that the true measure of our progress not found in the paper alone, but in the daily life of Somalia, men and women and children, and the person with disability whose dignity we are determined to uphold. Mr. President, Somalia stands before this Council with the humility and resolve. We ask not for prescription, but we ask for partnership, not for stigma, but for solidarity. Together we can ensure that the commitment in this resolution transforms into real change, into justice, opportunity and hope for every Somali citizen. The Federal Government of Somalia therefore makes heartfelt appeal to all delegations to adopt this resolution by common agreement as an act of confidence in Somalia, both of faith in international cooperation, that of shared commitment to human rights for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I have been informed by the Secretariat that there are PBIs for this draft proposal. The PBIs amount to a total of $1,520,800. Originally, the amount of $1,997,000 had been included under the program budget. The reduction is due to the end of the mandate of the independent expert, if I understand that correctly, and we take note of that. I now give the floor to members of the Council who wish to make explanations of votes before the vote on draft proposal L14. I don't see any requests for the floor. Is there a request for a vote? I see none. May I take it that draft proposal L14 may be adopted without a vote? It is so decided. Thank you very much. The Council will now consider draft proposal L16 entitled Cooperation with Georgia, and I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Georgia to introduce the draft text.
I have the honor to introduce the draft resolution entitled Cooperation with Georgia, which draws Council attention to the ongoing and worsening human rights situation in Georgia's Abkhazia and Tskhinvali regions occupied by the Russian Federation. The illegal occupation of Georgia's sovereign territory persists, as does Russia's flagrant disregard for the EU-mediated 12 August 2008 ceasefire agreement. Russia continues its illegal presence in Georgia's two indivisible regions, while taking steps towards de facto annexation via integrating them into its political, economic, military, social and judicial systems. Both the European Court of Human Rights and the International ICC have confirmed Russia's occupation, effective control and responsibility over human rights violations in these territories. The human rights situation is deeply troubling, with violation of the rights to the life, health, property, torture and ill treatment, ethnic discrimination, denial of education in the Georgian language, restrictions on freedom of movement, arbitrary detentions and kidnappings, just recently exemplified by the detention of 5 children by the occupation regime in Tskhinvali. The justice still has not been served for the deprivation of lives of David Basharuli, Giga Othozoria, Archil Tatunashvili, Tamas Ginturi, Vitali Karbaya, and death of the Irakli Kwaratskelia. The cycle of impunity continues to fuel further ethnically motivated violence. Russia is creating the basis to finally complete the ethnic cleansing that began years ago and ensure that no ethnic Georgian population remains in the occupied Abkhazia and Tskhinvali regions. This is precisely the purpose of Russia's recent actions to introduce simplified procedures for granting Russian citizenship to people residing in Abkhazia and Tskhinvali regions and to obtain Russian passports directly in those regions, as well as to tighten so-called legislation in Abkhazia, Georgia, prohibiting the inheritance of real estate for Georgians and their family members. Moreover, there is a new dangerous trend when Russia, as a power exercising effective control in both occupied regions, illegally brings citizens of other countries to occupied regions and then forces them to cross the occupation line into territory controlled by the Georgian government, thus attempting to create yet another humanitarian crisis. Mr. President, the resolution once again calls for immediate and unimpeded access for the Office of the High Commissioner and other international and regional human rights mechanisms. Even the EU monitoring mission, the only international monitoring mission on the ground mandated under the EU-mediated ceasefire agreement, has long been denied access to these territories. We express gratitude to the delegations for their engagement in drafting and co-sponsorship and hope it will be adopted by consensus. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have been informed by the Secretariat that there are 8 additional co-sponsors, and I now give the floor to members of the Council who wish to make general comments. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Costa Rica.
Gracias.
Thank you, President. My country would like to thank Georgia for the introduction of this draft resolution, and we affirm our commitment to the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of Georgia within its internationally recognized borders. We'd like to highlight that Georgia continues to cooperate with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in Geneva, as well as the country office in Tbilisi. It is regrettable that international and regional human rights mechanisms continue to not have access to Abkhazia or South Ossetia, though we do note that according to what the Office of the High Commissioner has said, the authorities that exercise control in Abkhazia have allowed certain UN bodies in bodies that work on humanitarian assistance and development. My country urges for or calls for the Office of the High Commissioner and international regional human rights mechanisms to have unhindered access to Abkhazia and South Ossetia so that they can contribute to the protection and promotion of human rights there and to confidence building. President, Costa Rica is convinced that country resolutions under Agenda Item 10 can offer valuable opportunities for improving the situation of human rights across the entire territory of the country. Therefore, this resolution should be viewed as an opportunity for Georgia to strengthen its dialogue and cooperation with universal human rights mechanisms and to consider afresh the recommendations made by the Office of the High Commissioner, reports which have been mentioned in this resolution under Agenda Item 10. Through strengthened cooperation on human rights for the benefit of all people and stakeholders in Georgia, my country